From kings, nobles, knights, and peasants to employers and laborers, all were driven by profit, where there will always be those who command and those who serve in order to get a small penny. In medieval Europe, the social structure was based on feudalism, a system where the relationship between a lord and serf, the holding of land in exchange for labor or service, and legalized production, which later laid a background for capitalism through a transformation of property and labor relations. Under feudalism, serfs were tied to the land and had to provide labor or pay rent to their lords, but they could still grow their own food or use common land to survive. They were not forced to sell their labor to live. However, during the 16th century, wealthy landowners, friends of the commons, a share land that ordinary people had used to feed their animals, collect wood, and gather food, to what Marx called primitive accumulation, when land became a commodity. This transformation was necessary for capital to be invested in land and for the concept of rent to become an economic thing. By taking away this source of survival, they forced poor people to leave their villages and move to cities, where they had no choice but to work in factories for very low wages. In this way, the bourgeoisie controlled ordinary people by removing their security and making them dependent on wages to survive. This created the first-rate liberal people who were free in the sense that they no longer owed federal obligations, but also had to work for someone else to survive. But this transformation did not stop in the countryside. Once people were pushed off their land and forced into wage labor, Britain entered the age of industrialization, a shift that radically reshaped time, labor, and social identity. Factories introduced what E.P. Thompson described it as a new work discipline, where time was no longer something workers control, but something the factory controlled for them. Bells, clocks, supervisors, and rigid timetable replaced the older, tax-based rhythm of farm or craft life. For the bourgeoisie, this system was perfect. The more they controlled time, the more surplus value they could extract. Inside these factories, British Angles observed unbearably harsh conditions: overcrowded homes, child labor, long hours, polluted air, and constant sickness. But Angles argued that these hardships were not accidental. They were built into how capitalism works. The bourgeoisie became wealthy precisely because the working class became poor. At the same time, industrialization linked British workers to global system of empire. Factories rely on cheap cotton from India and other colonies, reinforcing what Catherine Hawes calls an imperial economy where metropolitan wealth depended on colonial exploitation. This global structure allowed the bourgeoisie to drive costs even lower and profits even higher. Yet these pleasures also produced something the bourgeoisie did not expect. Workers began to see themselves as a collective cause. Through strikes, union, and share struggle, they recognized that their exploitation was not individual, but systemic. This marked the beginning of a class consciousness that still shapes labor politics today. So industrialization did more than mechanize production. It created a new social order where the bourgeoisie continually invents new ways to control labor. While workers continually push back, it is the foundation of the modern capitalist world, a world still structured by disciplines, inequality, and resistance. Some of us may like to think of the present as the post-industrial society, driven by rapid technological advancement that pushed the idea of factories out of the forefront of the collective mind, as practically every part of daily life becomes digitalized. But the truth is, systems built in the past are normalized in the present and continue to exploit laborers today. Let's look at how some of the social constructs created during the enclosure movements and the industrialization revolution of Britain shapes or interpolates us into subjects who believe capitalism is the only way. To begin, ever since the concept of enclosure and renting was born, capitalists seek to control land as well as what exists on it, investing in capital and commodifying the valuable space. They decide what and who is allowed on it, forcing people who need some of that space for a period of time to pay a certain amount. Only through buying can someone gain control of the land, and this has been the way land is now managed all over the world. Once industrialization took hold, employers imposed strict labor disciplines and long work hours. In the modern world, we are expected to clock in and out, not even a minute late. The standard workday is between 7 to 8 hours. Moreover, women are expected to handle domestic work, which is unpaid. On top of that, the gender pay gap exists due to the misogynistic tendencies of employers to put women into female-typical, lower-paying jobs opposed to higher-paying male-dominated positions. As of April 2025, women in the UK earn 6.9% less than men. Another interesting way capitalists of that time have shaped the modern world is the previously mentioned exploitation of rich natural resources and native labor in its colonies. In the 21st century, this has largely remained not controlled by independent European monarchs, but rather multinational corporations. Global labor exploitation is often overlooked in the system of mass-producing cheap products. For instance, tech giant Apple allegedly sources their lithium-ion batteries from Congolese cobalt mines, where there is cheap child labor. Simultaneously, we are constantly persuaded to buy the newest device every year, unaware of the worker exploitation occurring behind closed doors. Living in a capitalist society compels individuals to be productive, self-reliant, and responsible for their own survival. Capitalism promotes an ideology in which dependence on others or on collective structure is discouraged, where individualism, self-management, and personal risk-taking are celebrated. As this ideology spread, it reshaped working-class consciousness. Instead of encouraging solidarity, it pushed workers to see their struggles as personal failures rather than structural problems. This shift allowed governments and employers to withdraw from welfare responsibilities by reframing social protection as an individual duty, not a collective right. Consequently, capitalist societies cultivate a consciousness in which people become subordinated to the demands of the market. Workers are encouraged to rely on wages and personal wealth, producing an endless cycle of consumerism that reinforces their dependency on capitalist production. Capitalism also normalizes a system where employers provide only the minimum necessary to maintain labor power, what Marx described as the reproduction of labor at the lowest possible cost, while presenting this as generosity or opportunity. This ideological process leads individuals to accept the constraints of wage labor and to internalize a modern form of wage slavery, in which they feel unable to escape the capitalist system that shapes both their material needs and their sense of identity. As Mark Fisher argues, contemporary society often find it easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. Under neoliberal capitalism, economic risks once shared collectively, such as social welfare, housing security, and employment protection, and increasingly shift onto individuals. This transfer of responsibility is justified through the language of freedom, choice, and self-reliance, encouraging people to interpret structural pressures as personal failings. These conditions persist today. Modern workers live in a society where the influence of trade union has weakened, and the collective traditions of working class solidarity have faded. At the same time, neoliberalism promotes an ideal of the autonomous individual who must continually manage their own precarity. This raises a question. Do people genuinely possess the freedom to choose the lives they want, or are they still trapped within a modern form of wage slavery?